Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brennan again, on my way to the gym on this rainy and cold Rhode Island Saturday morning. So I'm actually going to meet up with Nick Wright from NWB, which I'm sure you guys are more than familiar with, as well as Bob Arcan from Olympus Iron, who you guys have seen on my channel before, and you guys might be subscribed to as well because he has a pretty decent subscriber base. So we're gonna go and train. They both said they wanted to come and do chest with me today, so International Chest Day every day, in case you didn't know. So I think they're gonna hop on the program I'm on right now, BBSM, so they're gonna try to go ahead and hang with me, so to say, at least do the progression. So it should be interesting to say the least. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for a collab with Nick Wright, considering that we're in the smallest state in the United States. We probably live about 10 minutes from each other. Yet in all the years that we've both been doing YouTube, we've never actually done any of these things. So we're gonna do it. Should be interesting. I hope you guys enjoy. We'll talk to you soon. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brennan again, BBSM, Cycle 4, Week 8, the last day of Week 8, bench day, and I have some friends, and I'm not talking about the two girls in the background, although I'm sure many of you guys will be distracted. Don't let that detract you from Nick Wright and Bob from Olympus Iron. So the great thing about working out with Nick and Bob today is that they're very strong individuals, so Nick decided to do the exact same weights that I'm doing. Him and Bob, while both would probably say they're bodybuilders by heart, are very interested in strength training, which is something I'm focused on, so it was cool to work out with them. You see Nick and I here's first set of 270 for 3 paused reps. Bob is using 245 here before we get into the real working weights. So again, they're jumping in on my BBSM. So after that first working set, we moved on to 3 more working sets of the paused competition bench with 295 for Nick and myself. Now again, given that this is week 8 and the end of week 8 out of this 10-week program, this is a fairly heavy set for me, only because I gave Dan Green 305 as my starting 1 rep max for paused bench, and that's based off of the last powerlifting meet that I attended. Now Nick is very strong in the bench. In case you guys don't watch his channel, definitely go and check him out, as well as Bob, which you'll find linked in the description box below. But I believe Nick's 1 rep max in bench is somewhere around 350. However, using a pause if you're not used to it can throw you off quite a bit. Not to mention, as far as the way that we set this up today, we have the rack height more suitable for me. Later on, we'll drop it down a little bit. Nick is a little bit shorter. I'm taller at 6'4". I think Nick's something like 5'8" or 5'9". But here you see my set of 295. So really working on the pause here. You guys can also notice I'm wearing my Addy Powers. Just to kind of answer some questions, a lot of people ask why I don't arch on the bench, and it's just because I can't. And after talking to both Dan Green and Brandon Lilly personally about this, they told me not to worry about it and just make sure that I have a really strong flat back bench press. So that's really what I've been focusing on. So here you see Bob on his next set. He's doing sets of 245. You can see he too is also rocking the Addy Powers, however he's choosing to use his belt. So you see between all 3 of us, we all have different styles, both in the way we set up, the way we bench, the equipment we like to use. So for example, you'll see Nick just wears Chuck Taylors, no wrist wraps, anything like that. I myself am using my Olympic shoes and my gangster wraps, whereas Bob is wearing his Olympic shoes, his wraps, as well as his belt. So you really get some different views here on how people like to bench. What I've really been trying to focus on things in my lifting for any lift out there, because you'll run into so much different opinion on what you should do as far as form and technique. I've really just relegated it down to I'm gonna do whatever feels the most comfortable and where I get the best leverage and the best strength from. And I really highly suggest you do that too, because if you know me and you watch my videos, you know I tend to really worry about certain things and kind of overanalyze myself. And since I've stopped doing that, I've made this a lot more enjoyable. So here you see Nick's last set of 295. He broke off the sweatshirt, so sun's out, guns out. 3 reps again. Really strong for him. And this was a really interesting day, only because you guys know I'm so used to training by myself. However, having 2 other people work in with me really wasn't an issue. We all got along really well, despite the fact this was the first time I met Nick. I've trained with Bob several times before, but we all kind of meshed together really well because we had the same common purpose of just encouraging each other and moving the weight as best as we could. So here you see my last set of 3 reps. Felt good, so I'm pretty proud with this. I think my bench has gotten a lot better. We'll see once we actually get on the platform and test. About 2 weeks out from my meet, so the next week I'm assuming is probably going to be a little bit of a deload, but we will see. Probably do some more peaking at the beginning with squats and maybe even bench press before again kind of playing it a little bit easy. So from here we moved on to speed bench, 4 sets of 3. Now for this I'm only going to show you the first set because I don't want this video to be really long. The goal here is to move the weight as fast as possible while still keeping some control over it because we don't just want to bounce it off of our chest. So we're using 275 pounds here. You just saw Nick's set. Here's mine. Pretty smooth. Feels pretty good. I gotta say that I've really enjoyed these chest days on this program just because it's a very big mix between, again, paused competition style bench, speed work, wide grip. You've seen some dumbbell work, although I will mention that this last cycle we've got rid of the incline dumbbell work and instead added in close grip bench press. So you really get a lot of bench pressing and a lot of these reps to really work on your form. So from here we moved into, as I just mentioned, wide grip paused bench press. You're seeing myself first only because with Nick and the thing I mentioned with the racks earlier, we ended up having to move the pins down for him, so I didn't want to show you this higher pin set only because it wasn't really fair to him because he had a little bit of issues unracking. So there you see mine right there, which was 260 pounds for, again, 6 reps. Here you see Bob with his set, which is 185 for 6 reps. And the way that this worked today was it called for 2 sets of anywhere between 5 to 6 reps. So I think Bob and I both did 6, while you'll see Nick do 5, which is, again, completely fine. So there is some instinctive training worked into this program as well. And here you see Nick. So again, the pins have now been lowered a little bit. You see he unracks fine, and he gets this press going on. And as I've always said, I might as well keep it consistent. I've said this every video that I've done chest on BBSM. I really like the wide grip pressing, and especially today, looking back on my normal competition style bench, it looks like my hands might be a little bit too narrow, so that might be something to consider after this next meet as I go back and re-tinker things. Finally, what we did is 2 sets of 245, close grip bench for as many reps as possible, and here you see Nick's set. Now for this exercise, it's going to be kind of fun because since Nick and I are using the same weight and it calls for as many reps as possible, I got to see him go first, so I knew how many reps I had to beat. So there he got 7 reps. So you see myself on here, and I'm asking for a lift off only because we've lowered the pins, and you can see that my arms are already fairly bent where I have to unrack the weight. So it was a little bit awkward for me, so I needed him to kind of give me a little lift off. And here you see my set. So again, going into this, my goal is only to beat 7 reps so I can shove it in Nick Wright's face. And you're welcome, Nick. So as you can see here, I actually got a few more reps than Nick did. But again, he had the advantage, or disadvantage I should say, of going first, because I know if I went first and was following somebody up, I definitely want to beat what they got for reps. But this felt pretty good, and again, we did 2 actual working sets of as many reps as possible here, but only showing you the first set for time circumstances. You then see Bob, he dropped it down to 185, but still a great job. Now both of these guys are a lot younger, I should say. I think I'm 10 years older than both of them, so it made me feel really old. They said, well, you know what, on the bright side, you don't look that old. But then I took off my hat and showed them my LeBron James hairline, and they didn't really say anything much else after that. So after we finished up this, that was it for chest. So a lot of flat pressing today. And then we moved on to everybody's favorite exercise, this chest supported incline row for dumbbells. Now with this too, as I already mentioned with the bench press, you can see some very different styles. You can see that Nick likes to go a little bit higher on the bench and keep his ass off of it. Whereas, you know, myself, I like to sit down. And the reason for me, at least, that I like to sit down is because I find that that really takes all the stress and pressure off of my lower back. And some might say, well, yeah, well, that's what the chest support is there for. And while that is true, I find that I use a lot more legs and my lower back still when I'm using them in this lift if I stand up like they're doing. So I feel a lot more comfortable sitting down because I feel like I'm really, in case you haven't noticed already, able to isolate my lats a little bit more. And that's why I really like this movement, because I get a great pull from it. So here you see me, the master at work, those glutes shining through. And again, for this, we did 4 sets of 12 reps. You see me working with 75 pounds here, I believe. But 4 sets of 12, only filmed the first one, only for, again, time circumstances. After this, we actually went out to eat, grabbed a big breakfast. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw it. But overall, it was a great training session. And again, if you're not subscribed to Nick or Bob, please go do that. You'll find them linked in the description box below. And as always, thanks for watching and stay big.